Welcome back to our 19th episode of The Modern Classroom. I am your host, Sachata, and today we are diving deep into a topic that truly touches the heart of education, social emotional learning, or SEL. It is more than just a buzzword. It's about how we help our children navigate the messy, beautiful world of human emotions. Joining me today is a man who has spent 2 decades in the trenches of primary education, the wonderful Mr. Saroon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sachata. It is such a pleasure to be here. You know, after 20 years in the classroom, I have seen many trends come and go, but SEL, that is not a trend. It is the foundation of everything we do as humans. I am truly passionate about discussing how we can better support the emotional growth of our students.
I love that you call it a foundation. Sometimes when we talk about school, we focus so much on the grades, the math scores, and the literacy rates. But if a child is sitting at their desk feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or lonely, can they even begin to process a math equation?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Imagine trying to build a house on shifting sand. That is what we do when we ignore the emotional state of a child. I remember a student of mine, a young boy named Dara. He was brilliant, truly, but he would explode in frustration every time he made a tiny mistake. Without SEL, he was just seen as a difficult child, but with the right tools, he learned to breathe, to name his feelings, and ask for help.
That is a powerful example. For our listeners who might be new to the specific term, could you break down what the core pillars of an effective SEL program actually look like? What are we teaching these kids?
It usually comes down to 5 main things. First, self-awareness, knowing what you are feeling. Second, self-management, knowing what to do with those feelings. Then there is social awareness, which is basically empathy. Fourth is relationship skills, and finally, responsible decision-making. It's about teaching them that their choices have consequences, both for themselves and for others.
Those are skills that many adults, myself included, are still working on. It feels almost revolutionary to think that we are starting this in kindergarten now. But let's talk about the effectiveness part of our episode title. Does it actually work? Does the data back up these feelings?
Oh, absolutely. The research is staggering. A massive meta-analysis showed that students in SEL programs showed an 11 percentile point gain in academic achievement compared to those who didn't have them. But more importantly, we see a huge drop in bullying, a decrease in emotional distress, and much better social behavior. It turned out when kids feel safe and understood, they actually want to learn.
It makes so much sense when you put it that way. If the brain is in survival mode because of stress or social conflict, the learning mode is effectively switched off. Concern tone. However, I often hear teachers say their schedules are already packed. How do we find the time for this? Is it just one more thing on their plate?
I hear that frustration every day. My fellow teachers are exhausted. But I always tell them, SEL isn't something you add to the plate. It is the plate. You don't need a separate 40-minute lesson every day. It's in the way you greet them at the door. It's in how you handle a conflict over a pencil. It's the 2-minute check-in at the start of the morning. When you invest that time early on, you save hours later because you aren't spending all your time on discipline.
I love that phrase, it is the plate. That's a beautiful metaphor. I want to touch on the parent side of this. Some parents might be skeptical, thinking, I send my kid to school to learn history, not to talk about their feelings. How do you address that concern?
I understand that perspective. It comes from a place of wanting the best for their child's future. But I ask them, what does the modern workplace look like? Every employer today is looking for soft skills. They want people who can collaborate, manage their stress, and communicate. By teaching SEL, we are giving their children the ultimate competitive advantage in the real world. It's the most practical training they will ever receive.
It really is. It's about creating whole humans. Emotional tone. I think back to my own school days. We didn't have this. If you were sad, you just hid it. If you were angry, you got sent to the principal's office. Softly, imagine how different our generation might be if we had been taught how to process our grief or our anger constructively.
It's true. We are healing the future by teaching the children of today. I see it in my classroom every afternoon when a student stops themselves before hitting someone and says, I am feeling very frustrated right now because you took my book. My heart just soars. That is a victory. That is growth. That child is going to grow up to be a better partner, a better parent, and a better citizen. You can really feel the passion in your voice, Mr. Saroon. It's contagious.
Before we wrap up, what is one small thing a teacher or even a parent listening right now can do tomorrow to start implementing a bit of SEL?
Encouragingly, start with the mood meter. Just ask your child or your student to point to how they are feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, or use colors: red for angry, blue for sad, yellow for excited, green for calm. Just naming it, label it to enable it, is the first step. It validates their internal world. It tells them, I see you, and your feelings are okay.
With a smile, label it to enable it. I am going to remember that. Mr. Saroon, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us today. This has been such an enlightening conversation.
It was my absolute pleasure, Suchata. Thank you for giving a voice to such an important topic. Let's keep caring for our kids, one emotion at a time.
And thank you to all our listeners for tuning in to episode 19. Remember, education is not just the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. And that fire needs a safe place to burn. Join us next week as we explore more ways to innovate the classroom. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.